much. So good morning, everyone. It's 9:31 and it's May 13th. I want to welcome everyone to the meeting. I call this meeting to order. I look outside and I see nothing but blue sky. So it's going to be a great, great day, I think. All right. So Madam Clerk, item number 2, can you please do the roll call?
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. I see Councillor Boddy just joining us now. So we now have all members of council present.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Item number 3 is the acknowledgement. I'd like to say that we acknowledge and with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabe, the Six Nations of the Grand River, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat, Wyandot, Wyandot peoples on whose traditional territories we gather and whose ancestors signed treaties with our ancestors. We also recognize the Métis and Inuit, whose ancestors share this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all of its diverse peoples. Item number 4, is there any declaration of interest, pecuniary or otherwise? I do not see any hands, and I would just say if one comes up during the course of the meeting, I would ask you to declare it at that time. Item number 5A is the County Council and Committee of the Whole minutes, which are dated April 22nd. They are moved by Councillor Keaveney and seconded by Councillor Mackey. Is there any discussion with respect to those minutes? Seeing none, I will call the question. Is there anyone opposed to approval? That is therefore carried. Item 5B is the long-term care redevelopment minutes dated May 6, 2021. It is moved by Councillor Robinson and seconded by Councillor Mackey. Any discussion on that item? And once again, seeing none, I will call the question. Is there anyone opposed to approval? And seeing no one opposed, I will say that that too is carried. Item 6A, and I know Dr. Era is on deck, is the board minutes, Board of Health minutes and a report. It's being moved by Councillor O'Leary and seconded by Councillor Patterson. Dr. Era, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Good morning, Council. Good morning. The minutes from March 26th, the highlight of it was closing to the end of the first phase for the vaccine rollout and completing all the stages that are required there and groups, whether First Nation, healthcare workers, 80+, and the long-term care sector. And since then, many other changes or many other updates on vaccines have taken place. If it's appropriate, I can provide the recent updates, which is related to 71,000 vaccines have been provided in Grey Bruce. That is close to 50%, 75% of the eligible population in Grey Bruce, and that is very close to the 50% provincial average. For the past 2 weeks, we had reduction 50% in our shipments to send those 50% to hotspots, and that is the best practice and the recommendation from the science table, and we would endorse that, since at the end of the day we're receiving the patients transfer from hotspots, so any protection in a hotspot will protect Ontarians and protect our capacity in the hospital as well. So we will be seeing, and we have received the confirmation of return of full shipments over the coming weeks. The main update there on the vaccination for hospital workers, second dose, there is an interval of 4 months, and we decided locally to provide the vaccine to our health workers in the hospital. Specifically, we're receiving transfers from hotspots, and it was the first time the ministry calls us and sends a couple of communications saying if we proceed with second dose, that's going to open the door for other health units to do so. and in communication advocacy with different people around the table and the local MPPs. We connected with the task force representative, and we arranged for a meeting with the local healthcare leaders, physicians, nurses, and executive in Grey Bruce, and that advocacy had contributed to the announcement that we heard earlier this week from the province to have the vaccine second dose provided to healthcare workers. So locally, we have the ability to provide that, and we're arranging for it over the coming 2 weeks in collaboration with the hospitals and the healthcare system, and we will go with the pace that works for our partners. School update remain closed. Nevertheless, we are ready in Grey Bruce to reopen schools as soon as we receive the green light from the province, and that is based on our epidemiology and communication with the Director of Education for the 2 boards. And it's worth mentioning the situation report or the situation in Grey Bruce. We have a number of new cases on a daily basis. The average of it remains manageable, and there is fluctuation. Yesterday was 13. I suspect today will be close to 0, as it could be 1 or 2. And this variability does not change the average around 5 or less than 5. No outbreaks in long-term care or retirement homes or hospitals or childcare. This is as good of a situation as it gets after a 3rd wave. And I am cautiously optimistic that we cleared the 3rd wave and we will proceed with rolling out the vaccine. One final item there is on the stay-at-home order. There is advocacy from all MOHs to extend the stay-at-home order until after the Victoria Day, the long weekend, sorry. So although we are in a very good position, I see the benefit of that advocacy for extension of a few more days. And that's my update with the highlights from the minutes, Mr. Warden.
Thank you very much, Dr. Era. Councillor Patterson, before I go to questions, is there anything that you wanted to add?
Yes, there is. Thank you, Warden Hicks. Good morning, County Council. The board welcomed Dr. Zayed as a physician consultant. Dr. Zayed was interviewed in October of 2020, but was not able to join the health unit until February of this year. A physician consultant is the first step in the process of becoming an associate medical officer of health. I also want to share the software booking system was purchased to implement specific vaccine clinics for prioritized groups. This system aligns nicely with the provincial system, which books specific age groups. And we welcomed Janice Jackson, who is the warden of Bruce County and the mayor of South Bruce Peninsula. She has joined the board to fill the vacant Bruce County seat. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. We'll turn to questions now. First is Councillor Desai.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. Thank you, Dr. Era and Chair Patterson for the update. My question is with regards to the recent announcement on the AstraZeneca vaccines. There was an announcement made that they're going to stop the rollout of the AstraZeneca vaccine, at least provincially. At the same time, federally, we're seeing that we are receiving a higher number of AstraZeneca doses. How do we envision the provincial decision of stopping the rollout of the AstraZeneca vaccine? How do we see that affecting the vaccine rollout in Grey County? My second question is with regards to the stay-at-home order. The major difference between the stay-at-home order this year and the one last year around the same time was around golf courses. The fact that golf courses this year are not allowed to open. Is there any recommendation from the MOHs to maybe revisit that decision? Because if we're going to say that outdoor activities like hiking, for example, can be done, what is different between hiking and golfing. In fact, golfing is a bit more frustrating. I'm speaking from experience anyways. So just maybe some words on whether or not that's something that we can look forward to in terms of golf courses being able to open. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Warden, the AstraZeneca was paused based on a provincial decision a couple of days ago. And that's worth mentioning. It was not a NACI decision. It's not the National Advisory Committee for Immunization. It is of abundance of caution related to the blood clotting. How that's going to affect the distribution in Grey Bruce or in Grey County. The bulk of the vaccine that we received, the shipments are Moderna and Pfizer. The AstraZeneca is being distributed directly from the ministry to pharmacies and through the health unit to primary care. And the amounts of it is around 1,000 doses per week, or sometimes to 2,000. Nevertheless, that is part of the total shipments that we receive. The ministry provided initial reassurance that we will be able to use Moderna instead of AstraZeneca to ensure that bookings or appointments that have been booked for AstraZeneca are not being canceled. This was an initial reassurance or assurance that we have not received the details of the increase in our shipments to accommodate for the reduction in AstraZeneca. The second question is related to golf courses. I agree with you that golf courses and golfing as an activity is one of the safest, and it's very much related to recreation or to exercise, which would help with mental health. The main reason, my understanding, and that is a provincial decision from our provincial colleagues, my main understanding is the fact that the goal of restricting this activity is to reduce mobility. People who travel for golf courses might be traveling from hot spots. They can be traveling for long distance to spend a weekend or a week. And restricting golf courses will reduce the mobility, which is a factor related to that transmission provincially. That is the main reason there. And I know that our provincial colleagues are reevaluating that situation on continuous basis.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Councillor Desai?
I was hoping for more support for golfing, but no, thank you. No further questions. Thank you very much, Dr. Era.
Thank you. Next is Councillor McQueen, or Deputy Warden McQueen. My apologies.
No problem there. And good morning, Mr. Warden, and thank you for taking my question. And this is a question with regards to the minutes of March 26, and it's at the top of page 5, and the chair sort of touched on it with regards to the Associate Medical Officer of Health. But the last sentence in the first paragraph, it sort of says, the first step of the process, appointment of the board as Associate Medical Officer of Health, was completed. However, the second step, receiving ministerial approval, was not completed. And I guess my question is there something that the province didn't allow, or can you maybe just expand on that with regards to, and is that talking about hiring an Associate Medical Officer of Health? You know, maybe Mr. Warden give everybody a chance to find that. It's the top of page 5 on the March 26 minutes. I think it's 7.1, but it's sort of in the top of the 5th page. And it's speaking to the, my question is with regards, was there something that the province didn't do in the sense of helping out the health unit itself? That was more my question.
Okay.
For you, Mr. Chair, no, it was not any limitation from the provincial side or from the ministry side. Rather, the process was not completed for different reasons, individual employee reasons.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? I don't see any other hands.
If I may elaborate, Mr. Chair, The process of recruiting an associate starts by interviews for a physician consultant. Then when certain qualifications are met with according to the provincial or the ministry criteria, the board can appoint, and that motion for appointment will be part of an application that goes to the ministry. Then the process of approving that application can vary between few months to over a year. And the ministry has been, my understanding from different health units applying, has been supportive of approving associates for certain health units. Some physician consultants remain physician consultants, but specifically in our case, it was a different process where the employee more or less withdrew their application, and that's the reason for stopping the application, not the ministry.
Just to follow up there, Mr. Warden, if I may.
Okay.
I know it's a lot of work for Dr. Era to be working and not having an assistant, and that was the reason why I was raising the point. It's I think it would be nice to give him a day off on that part. That was the reason why I was asking it, only in the sense of, was there a process from the provincial side that? But thank you. I'm okay with that. I was just wondering if there was a delay from the provincial side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Era, I wonder if I see Councillor Gamble's hand, and I'll get to you, sir. Dr. Era, I wonder if I might ask, have you taken a position with respect to children returning to in-class learning?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, if you can elaborate on the question.
No worries. Have you taken a position, Dr. Era, with respect to in-class learning, so return to school for children?
Right. Sorry, the line was not clear. Yes, the ministry asked the question whether health units could be ready to open schools with return to class learning within 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or more, and we put our hand up that we are ready within 2 weeks, and that's a decision that will come from the ministry, whether regional approach or universal approach across the province.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gamble.
Yeah, to you, Warden. This morning on TV Toronto, the Prime Minister did a live interview, and the point of AstraZeneca came up, and he is solidly behind it. And he kind of pretty well blames our own Premier for the policy that's been taken in Ontario. I was just kind of curious what you know about that.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, if the question could be rephrased, the quality of the connection was not optimal.
No worries. Would you like me to rephrase, Councillor Gamble, or would you?
Yeah, sure. No, go ahead.
So the question is, if you know anything with respect to the comments made by the Prime Minister this morning, I guess essentially pointing the finger at our Premier with respect to the province's position on AstraZeneca.
Not specifically on the comment. I know that AstraZeneca was paused, and the word paused, not canceled or stopped, for abundance of caution, and that was not a direction from Health Canada or NACI recommendation, rather a provincial Ontario decision from the Chief Medical Officer of Health Office based on abundance of caution, precautionary principle.
Councillor Gamble, anything further?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Keaveney.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Good morning, County Council and Dr. Era. Dr. Era, I wondered if I could ask just, I guess, for your prediction, when the lockdown is lifted and we return to a color-coded system in Grey and Bruce, would you suspect, if things continue as they are, that we may go back to a green designation?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes.
Anything else, Councillor Keaveney?
No, and Dr. Eric is surprised for the shortest answer.
He needs to attend the AMO conference for that. Okay, I do not see any other hands, Madam Clerk. And if that is the case, then I will thank Dr. Era for being with us today. I know you're a busy man. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
And I will call the question now on the motion. Is there anyone opposed? And seeing none, that too is carried. Moving on to item number 7, we have 4 bylaws before you. The motion has been moved by Councillor Robinson and seconded by Councillor Keaveney. Is there any debate or question with respect to those 4 bylaws?
Mr. Warden?
Yes, go ahead.
Larso Ever Mayor of Town of Blue Mountains. I'd just like to highlight something that's potentially problematic in bylaw number 5112-21. Particularly it's paragraph 13, where it says any taxes canceled under this bylaw shall be shared by all levying bodies in the same proportion as those levying bodies share in the taxes levied against the subject property. The Municipal Act, however, says at 252-3 that if a local municipality has paid any body any part of the amount described in clause 1B above, that's any amounts that weren't collected, the municipality shall charge back to such body in its proportionate share of the unpaid taxes that are subsequently canceled, reduced, refunded, or written off. So this has potential implications, particularly to the Blue Mountains, Southgate, Grey Highlands, Chatsworth, and Meaford, who are likely to see increases that are in excess of the county average in terms of the new assessment when it comes. So what happens then is, as the bylaw is currently written, because they've seen a larger increase in taxes than in assessment than the rest of the county, of course, when assessments go up, you're able to offset that by lowering your tax rate. So in a case where a local municipality has a larger increase in assessment than the county average, then it will offset its. But the county, because its average increase is not the same as that municipality, will not be able to offset. So in a case where I run the model for Blue Mountains here, and if our assessments went up 60% and county went up on average 40%, there'd be a $426 increase. That's modeling, assuming the budgets and growth happens as it has been over the last 3 years. Now, of that $426 increase, 186 would be at the county level. None would be at the Town of Blue Mountains level. In fact, we'd be reducing our taxes by 10% unless we had a growth in our budget in excess of what's happened in the last few years. And then 128 at the school board level. So, but the way it's worded, we would be sharing in that, although we're offsetting the increase, we would be sharing the county increase with them in that, based on the way the bylaw is written, even though we hadn't increased our taxes at all. And we would still be sharing in that $426 increase by sending another $161 to the county, even though the reduction, which is based on the increase, is not due to anything that we'd done. We'd still be picking up the cost of the county and the school board increases. So that's not just a Blue Mountains issue. I'm sure, based on real estate sales, that this would also impact our neighbors in Grey Highlands and Meaford, as well as Chatsworth and Southgate, because I know, looking at real estate ads, if the assessment increases are very similar to what we see in the real estate increases that the real estate board is reporting. All of those municipalities would be sending money for an increase that they did not create. So I just wanted to highlight that for people.
Thank you, Councillor Soever. I see Mary Lou Spicer, our treasurer's got her hand up. And before I go to her, it strikes me though, and Mary Lou, you may want to comment on this as well. This bylaw is dealing with relieving financial hardship and canceling, the tax increase for those people with hardship. I would think that the overall dollars associated with this bylaw are relatively small. And then you did accurately point out that there would be a proportional sharing of that impact. Mary Lou Spicer?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Excuse me. From Kevin's report, he commented that it was difficult to estimate the number of eligible properties that would apply for this, this relief. He used the example of the County of Wellington, which provided a cancellation of up to a maximum of $500 and a minimum of $200. Reported in 2019 that for the 2018 tax year, 105 applications were approved, and the tax relief was $21,424, including the local, county, and education. With respect to the cost sharing, MTE has provided us a brief, and they reference section 353. So the cost of the write-off is shared proportionally in the same way that taxes on the property are shared amongst the different levying bodies. And so it says that the standard of sharing is established under section 353 of the Act that applies the distribution and chargeback of all levy amounts, except where specific sharing provisions are assigned. And then in essence, what it says is a local municipality that is required to impose taxes for another body must pay that body the taxes imposed, whether collected or not, unless the taxes have been canceled, reduced, refunded, or written off. And that in making adjustments for amounts that have been written off, those adjustments are to be based on each body's proportionate share of the unpaid taxes. So because section 319 establishes a total relief amount inclusive of local, upper tier, and education amounts, they must be shared in accordance with this formula.
Mr. Warden?
Go ahead, Councillor Soever.
Yes, and the report doesn't put in the last part of section where it says the proportionate share of the unpaid taxes that are subsequently canceled, reduced, refunded, or written off. So those are important words. And that's where the difference between this bylaw and that comes in, because if you read proportionate share of the unpaid taxes that are subsequently canceled, reduced, refunded, or written off, that would be the proportionate share of the increase that you're offsetting under the bylaw. Whereas the way the bylaw is written, it's the proportionate share of the total taxes on the property, not the portion that's written off.
So Councillor Soever, your specific suggestion for change would be some added language to paragraph 13?
Yes, that would be consistent with the Act.
Okay.
Be identical to the Act, sorry.
And so just to be clear, what you're proposing is that paragraph 13 would have what specific words added to it?
Okay, so instead of saying, the way it's worded now, it says in the same proportion as those levying bodies share in the taxes levied against the subject property.
Yes.
It should mirror the Act and say in the same proportion as the share of the unpaid taxes that are subsequently canceled, reduced, refunded, or written off.
Okay, I see several hands up now that we understand what you're proposing. Madam CAO.
Let Michael go ahead first, and then I'll speak after he goes ahead.
Mr. Letourneau?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Good morning, Council. I can, if Council wishes, provide some of the advice that was given with respect to the drafting of this bylaw. It would need, I would recommend that it be discussed in closed as it's a draft bylaw. But we could, however, take back any suggestion with respect to amendments to make sure that any concerns with alignment to the statutory provisions is properly carried out. I would note that the taxation provisions in the Municipal Act need to be aligned with taxation provisions in the Assessment Act and in the Education Act with respect to school taxes. So it would, if changes are contemplated here, I would suggest that we review to make sure that we are making sure all those changes are compatible with everything.
So are you suggesting, Mr. Letourneau, that we put this off for a bit to have that review, or that we going to further discussion in closed session?
No.
Either is workable for as far as it goes legally. We could either take it back or discuss it further here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Council, my recommendation would be, given the complexity of this and how important it is that everyone understands it clearly, that we bring this back. I would want to not only have Michael have an opportunity to review this in a fulsome way, as well as Mary Lou, but also with our tax consultant, Mr. Freeze. So if we could have that time, please, we'll bring this back to the next meeting.
Very good. So with that said, then I guess the proposal would be to change the motion to approve bylaws 511321 through to 511521, and to bring back 511221, correct?
So
and would ask the movers if they're agreeable to that amendment. That's Councillors Robinson and Keaveney.
Yes, Mr. Warden, it's Christine Robinson, and I would be prepared to move that.
And Councillor Keaveney?
Yes, Mr. Warden, I would agree to second.
And Madam Clerk?
thank you. I think, sorry, I don't want to jump in. I do think we just need a deferred motion so that we are deferring bylaw 5112-21 to the May 27th meeting.
I'll move that motion. I'll move that motion.
Okay, so moved by Councillor.
I'll second.
Deputy Warden McQueen, and seconded by Councillor Woodbury. I did see his hand first.
And so then if Councillors Robinson and Keaveney are fine after we vote on the deferral, then we'll have motions 5113 through to 5115 for adoption.
So is there any discussion on the motion to defer? Seeing no discussion, I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed to that motion to defer? And that is carried. So onward we go now to the main motion, which is all of the others that we approve, 113, 114, and 115. Call the question. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is absolutely approved. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on, we're on to item number 8, good news and celebration. Is there anyone with anything to report? Councillor Desai.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I just wanted to report that Road Rock Highlanders completed their second annual fundraiser for the hospice. This time, instead of 19 days, we did it over 10 days, and we raised $12,290 for the Chapman House Hospice. And we want to thank everyone who donated and participated towards a great cause. Again, with the hospice, the annual hike for hospice continues on until May 31st. And as of Monday, they had raised $61,546 of their $200,000 goal. And as I end this, I just want to say it's very heartening to see that people have continued to come together figuratively obviously, and they've continued to do these charitable events, and they've been charitable with their time, with their money, and it makes me very proud to be a representative for these lovely people who call Grey County home. Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Thank you very much, Councillor Desai. And next is Councillor Potter.
Sorry, a little slow getting to my microphone button, Warden. I'd like to do a couple of quick updates on a couple of things that you also were part of. And one was our Rabbit Task Force public meeting last Wednesday. We launched something called the Speed Test Challenge, where we're asking people to sign on to the Canadian Internet Registry Authority website and conduct a speed test to see how fast their computer is, especially in the rural areas. And so far, the last update I had, which was a few minutes ago, was that we are up to about 1,118 tests in about a week. So the public have really signed on. There are also people who don't have internet at all and who have simply called in or texted us or whatever to let us know that they don't have internet connectivity at all where they are. So there's something close to 1,150 people so far. We're hoping to get about 2,500 in the month of May, so we're well along. Thank you for taking part in that. I know you didn't speak, but your support is appreciated. Also, Deputy Warden McQueen. And that brings me to last night. The Institute of Southern Georgian Bay held a session on the role of municipalities post-pandemic. And it's very interesting. I was one of the speakers along with Councillor McQueen, Councillor Klumpus, and we were joined by Mayor Saunderson and Mayor Bifulci from Collingwood and Wasaga Beach, respectively. A lot of interesting comments and a lot of interesting questions, and a lot of good responses in the chat room. A lot of the public had questions, but really came to understand the complexity of the role we play and what we face. That it's not, one or two issues for us. It's a whole menu of them, and trying to deal with them was already difficult, and it's even more so now and will be in the future. So that was very interesting, and I thank the Institute of Southern Georgian Bay for holding that.
Yes, I have to agree. It was a very good session. I was glad I was able to watch, and I thought that all of you did a very good job of presenting. It was an excellent session, and bravo, by the way, to both Town of Blue Mountains and Grey Highlands for the active participation people have had with respect to drawing attention to the need for robust broadband. Anyone else? Councillor Keaveney.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And I wanted to announce that this week, the municipality of Meaford received national recognition for its Report a Concern website portal from the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators, CAMA. The municipality was presented with the 2021 CAMA Willis Award for Innovation in the under 20,000 population category during a virtual awards of excellence ceremony held on May the 12th. So we were really excited to receive that award, and I congratulate our staff for their hard work in pulling that new report of concern together for our website. It's being really well utilized, so it was a great honor for me.
Congratulations. Anyone else? Councillor, I see Councillor Desai with his hand again.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Sorry, I did forget one piece of good news. Recently, Markdale was the subject of a documentary filmed by Jesse McCracken, who is a local filmmaker, and the documentary was aired at the Hot Dogs Festival. I'm not sure if everyone had a chance to watch it, but it was a lovely documentary. It was shot in black and white and sort of has a nostalgic tone to it. Highly recommended. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Deputy Warden McQueen.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And just to bring County Council up to date, what's happening in Grey Highlands as far as a couple of locations. We have hired the company Partnerships and Planning, and we have gone through quite a few visionarying sessions. We actually have had 6 with regards to the Beaver Valley area, and also 2 with the downtown Markdale. And we're looking at 2 aspects of that is how do we move forward with our revitalization of downtown Markdale, and also how do we look at the future of the Beaver Valley, and as a part of that is the Talisman package and the joint venture that we've entered into. So anyway, if you wish to follow that, or they are available on a YouTube link, and certainly quite interesting of the comments that we have received from those that have participated. And anyway, it's sort of an exciting time to get that feedback. So anyway, just an FYI to what's happening there.
Thank you very much, Deputy Warden. I don't see any other hands, Madam Clerk. So if that's the case, we will move on with adjournment. Item number 9, it's being moved by Councillor Hutchinson and Councillor O'Leary. Any discussion? I'm gathering not. Call the question. Anyone opposed? And seeing none, that is carried. Thank you very much. We'll take a second to switch over to our Committee of the Whole.